Thank you very much for the invitation today and for your words of introduction. As you can probably guess, today's hearing is a very emotional moment for me. I know that I would not be here without the fight of many generations of Poles for freedom and as we used to call it, a return to Europe. I'm grateful to my compatriots that also today they are a source of hope for a strong European Union, even at a time when dark clouds are increasingly gathering around us. It is with this hope that I stand before you today as Commissioner-designate for Budget, Anti-Fraud and Public Administration. I know that the European Parliament is the source of democratic legitimacy for the College and for each and every Commissioner-designate. I want to assure you, not out of politeness, but because it is my firm belief that your opinions and cooperation with you will be as important for me today as they will be in the future. Honourable members, the most important task of Commissioner for Budget will be to support the President of the European Commission in preparing the new Multiannual Financial Framework. As the new MFF will largely shape the EU for the next several years, it obviously requires extensive prior consultations, also and perhaps above all with the European Parliament. It should be our ambition to create an MFF of unity, not of division. It must be a strong political statement that Europe is taking more responsibility for its own future. This means that we should be financing our common priorities more than before. We know them all very well: competitiveness, cohesion, digitalization, agriculture, and the green transition. After all, the climate and biodiversity crisis will not just go away. But the economy and climate are not our only challenges. Nearly 1,000 days ago, Russia launched a full-scale invasion against Ukraine, and the EU's security is also at risk. Today, with wars raging in and around Europe, our alliance is facing new challenges. Security and defence also become a priority, and there is no way around it. That is why, if I'm confirmed as Commissioner for Budgets, I will work for an MFF that addresses these challenges. Based on the political guidelines of the President, I would like to present to you a few ideas on how such MFF could be built. Firstly, the new MFF will include a plan linking reforms with investments in each member state. We want to develop these plans in dialogue with capitals and with regions. It is they who know best what reforms and investments they need. Secondly, a new European Competitiveness Fund can play a key role in reinforcing our economy. We should build on our strength, an efficient research and development sector. What remains a weakness is the transition from research to the real economy, especially in strategic sectors critical for competitiveness. The new technological revolution is already changing the face of the global economy, from AI to biotechnology, and Europe cannot remain a mere spectator. Thirdly, the budget must be more flexible. Our budget should allow us to react quickly to crises and changes in and around our Union. In recent years alone, we have faced a pandemic, a full-scale war on the European continent, an energy crisis, relentless waves of fires and floods. We still remember the disastrous flooding in Poland and Central Europe. Now we are saddened by the tragic floods in Spain. Unfortunately, the future will not be more stable. Fourth, we need a simpler budget, simpler primarily for its beneficiaries. We are concerned, and rightly so, about the rising error rate in budget expenditure. However, in the vast majority of cases, it is not caused by fraud or conflict of interests, but by complicated procedures, contradictory rules, and multiplied funds and programmes that pursue similar objectives. Accessing EU funds does not have to be a bureaucratic nightmare. We should work on it. Fifth, we must get the maximum out of every euro in the EU budget. We know investments in Europe must increase dramatically. We also know that public finances cannot lift this burden alone. This is why, more than before, we must mobilise private and institutional capital. Increased use of guarantees or blending instruments is a way forward, and the EU budget has its role to play here. There is finally the question of budget financing. My task will be to remind the Member States that the deal from 2020 remains in place. I refer to the interinstitutional agreement. And we are all committed to work on new own resources. Progress on this matter has been insufficient and time is running. I expect the Council to resume work on this issue at the beginning of the next year at the latest. In short, the EU budget and the next MFF must show the solutions. They must show Europe is ready to tackle the challenges head-on, and it must be realistic. I count on very close cooperation with you in this House. There will be no strong MFF without you. Honourable members, in recent years we have built new institutions to protect the financial interests of the community and member states and to fight organised crime. If confirmed as Commissioner for Anti-Fraud, I will work on the review of anti-fraud architecture to strengthen these institutions and to step up their cooperation. Better collaboration between OLAF and the European Public Prosecutor's Office is an opportunity for swift recovery of EU budget funds. The further strengthening of EPO is bad news for fraudsters and organised crime. The Office is currently handling VAT fraud cases with an estimated value of 11 billion euros. We must do everything we can to eliminate fraud and organised crime in the EU. This would also ensure that tax revenues are steered away from fraudsters and towards addressing key challenges for the Union, the Member States and our people. The respect for the rule of law is closely linked to anti-fraud. This respect is and will continue to be a must for the EU funds. The rule of law is a matter of guaranteeing that European taxpayers' money serves common goals and whole societies, not just those in power and their acolytes. That is why I will work to further strengthen mechanisms that guarantee respect for the rule of law. We will build a close link between the rule of law report and the EU budget. Today I would like to thank the European Parliament for its contribution to the fight for the rule of law, and I am ready to cooperate both on implementing the current rules and on reinforcing them in the future. Honourable members, finally, if confirmed, I will also be the Commissioner for Public Administration. Without a strong and efficient public administration, our objectives will remain only on paper. The last time we reflected on how the Commission is organised was 25 years ago. Since then, the world around us has changed beyond recognition. And our Union is also different, with more and more tasks entrusted to the EU level. We must get our administration up to speed to respond to these new circumstances. This will be the purpose of the large-scale review of the Commission's organisation and operations. But European administration is not only about structures. It is above all about people, their values and their life aspirations. I am happy to see that women are now very well represented in managerial positions in the Commission. I am, however, worried that European institutions are becoming less attractive as an employer, especially for young talent. As a result, there is a growing problem with geographical balance. I am counting on the support of this House also on this matter. Honourable members, the European Union remains the best place to live in the world. But focused on competitiveness, technological race, defence or enlargements, we must not lose sight of those overwhelmed by the pace of change. We have obligations towards all Europeans, and even more so towards those who need our assistance. European institutions must accompany them in the just transition. I have no illusion that the EU budget alone can solve all our problems, but I do know that it can be a powerful tool to face them. Let me finish on a personal note. I come from a generation of Poles born in times when the Iron Curtain was still dividing Europe. I was reminded of this almost every day by soldiers of the Red Army, whose base was 6 kilometers from my home. I want to say that those who remember a divided Europe, those who know what it means to live in a foreign-dominated country, with no respect for individual rights and civil liberties, those people understand the great value of strong and united European Union. We may argue about various issues, but we must at all costs protect our unity and the values that constitute our community. Thank you. I am ready to take your questions.
We will now start the first round of questions by political groups with 5-minute time slots each. 1 minute for the question, then 2 minutes for the reply by the Commissioner-designate, then 1 minute for a possible follow-up question, and then again 1 minute for the follow-up answer. And please let me remind all of you that we will be extremely strict in this time allocation. 1 minute is 1 minute, 2 minutes are 2 minutes.